and welcome to Lab 4. It is about georeferencing and digitization. So georeferencing being the process of taking some kind of aerial image and giving it a projected coordinate system so that you can use it for analysis. And digitization being the creation of spatial data. So in this case, we're going to make shape files that represent houses, buildings, and streets. So I've come to our course on Blackboard, come to assignments. This is Lab 4. So there's the HTML file with the instructions, and then you need to download this data. I will change the name of it so it says Lab 4. And you want to download that to wherever your Geography 358 course folder is. For those of you that are using the desktops on the virtual lab, as I said in the last lab, I think it's best if you save all of your files on OneDrive, because then there are no issues with translations from Macintosh to Windows machine. And OneDrive is already set up on those computers in the lab. So if you need help setting it up on your home computer so that it shows up here as a drive, there are videos on Blackboard that will help you do that. But so I'm going to save it in my lab workspace here. And then it needs to be unzipped. So I'll rename it first Lab 4. Oh, and actually first you want to create a new folder for this lab, Lab 4, and that is where you will save your data. So I will just move it there. There we go. And now unzip it. And so again, if you're on a Windows machine, you'll right click somewhere in here. It'll say unzip or extract. Since I'm on a Mac, I just double click. All right. And if you see some weird file in there that says Mac OS X, just ignore that. That's just an artifact of me saving things on my machine and then giving them to you. So now I will navigate to the virtual lab. Sign in. Desktops, Linley 310. For some of you, if you're not in the geography department, I think that maybe this Linley 310 desktop won't show up for you, but you should be able to use this Watson GIS lab, which is available to anyone. All right, so I will say okay, sign in. Let's do that. All right, and so I will open ArcMap. So this just goes over downloading the data and what the different files are. And so we are going to start by georeferencing an image called a digital orthophoto quad. There's an explanation of those here, but they're pretty common government aerial photos with a pretty high resolution. And so we have a scanned DOQ over North Lawrence that doesn't have proper spatial information, projection information. So we're going to use an aerial image of Lawrence that has been projected, and we will use that to project the older image. All right. So first thing that I want to do is connect to my folder. And let's see. There we go. So it takes a little while, but this should pop up because it's just associated with your KU student ID. And once it does, you'll be able to see your OneDrive here. And this is the one that you want to connect to. If there's one that just says OneDrive, that's not the one you want. You want the one that says OneDrive, the University of Kansas. And so then I will connect to my Lab 4 folder. All right, so you want to add this NAEP 2004 image. Let me rename this real quick. NAEP was an agricultural program. They did a lot of flying or aerial remote sensing using planes. So those are pretty common as well. All right, so I will add the NAEP image. You can just drag and drop. All right, and so you see it displayed here. I think not. And so now, so this is the city of Lawrence. The university is right in here. Here's the river. Here's that municipal airport. And this is North Lawrence. And so now we are going to add the other image, Lawrence North, which is just a TIFF, which is kind of image file. Go ahead and say yes if it asks you to create pyramids. That just makes it load faster when you change views. And so you'll get this error saying that there's an unknown spatial reference. And you can say okay, because this is exactly the problem that we're going to fix in this lab. We're going to give it a spatial reference. And so you can see that that image isn't anywhere here. But if you right click this Lawrence North and then zoom to layer, it shows up there. And so the reason for this is because it doesn't have a spatial reference, ArcMap doesn't know where to put it. So it's just kind of out there floating in space, not connected to any real place on the ground. Whereas this image, the NAEP image, that does have a spatial reference, is located exactly at a point on the ground. If we added a base map, and so this is kind of just, you know, like Google Maps or something like that. Let's add these streets. You can see that it lines up. This is actually where Lawrence is. So I will take that out. Remove. All right, so we need to tell the computer how to place this image in the same place as this image, and that's what georeferencing is. All right, so you want to make sure that this one, Lawrence North, is on top of this one in the table of contents. And so this is going to be our control layer, because that's what we're referencing to. And, oh wait, no, that's it. Yeah. And this is our target layer, because it's the target of our georeferencing. All right, so let's see, what do we need to do? Okay, so go to this Customize menu here. We're going to add the georeferencing toolbar. So toolbars, georeferencing. And you can see that pops up. And like always, you can dock that if you want. You don't have to. I'm going to leave it. Oh, there we go. Right there. So let's see. So let's zoom back to this layer. And so we want to find places that are easy to identify with a nice level of precision in this old image that are also in this image. So you can see that this intersection right here would be a good one, a good place to start, because that is easily seen right here. All right, so in our georeferencing toolbar, let's see, we want to make sure that this layer is set to Lawrence North because that is our target layer. And so we are going to add control points. So first, what you want to do, go away you, is zoom in close to the place that you found that is in common in both. Pretty close because you want to be as precise as possible. So we are going to add a control point, say right here in the middle between the divided highway, and you just click. See, it's got a nice number there. And so now you can see this. Doesn't matter. Come over here, highlight your nape, zoom to layer. And so you can see that we're still tethered to that target control point. So go ahead and zoom in to the same place. And so if this went away, just click this add control points again. And so here I am again in the middle of my divided highway. Maybe let's zoom out just a bit. There we go. So right there. And so there's our number one. It's complete. All right, so you want to do that 11 times. So 11 more times so that you will have a total of 12 control points between your images. And so what happens is, I don't know, it's kind of like sewing things together. We put a stitch in those two images saying this is the same point. And once we get enough of those stitches together, then we tell the computer, okay, all of these points are lined up well, and then it will project the image to match the spatial reference of the other. So let's zoom back here. You can see that it's still there. And let's add another point. And you want to try and distribute them as evenly as you can through the whole image. Let's try the bridge. Actually, it can be kind of hard to wrap your mind around sometimes. Let's go back here. Okay, yeah. So we'll go on the right side of this bridge here, right on the shore. Zoom back. Zoom into that point here and finish our control point. And so now, I just think this is really cool. You can see that it's brought it to the same place because now we have two control points. It can locate it in the same space. And so now what you want to do is it's much easier to find those points now because they're right on top of each other. And you can see it's already doing a pretty good job. But you can also see that it's not quite right. It doesn't quite line up. So what you're going to want to do is, there we go, turn this layer on and off so that you can find your control points. So this little section line road, or whatever it is, intersects this major road. So let's use that as a control point. Turn this off so you can see that's about right there. Whoops. So let's go ahead and delete that one. I should have listened to that error message. So you can just open this link table. So these are all our control points. Just highlight that, press delete. All right, and so what that meant is that it wasn't well located because all three of these were just in a line. And that makes it hard for it to reference itself or something. So let's pick one up here. All right, so let's take this intersection. So that is this intersection here. There we go. And so that has tightened it up a bit further. And so like I said, what you're going to want to do is get 12 of those total. And so this is your root mean squared error right here. And what you want to do is get that to under 15. So it'll change as you add more, but once you have 12, if it is not under 15, then you need to delete some of your points. And so these are the total residuals right here, which is your error terms. So right now we're looking pretty good. But as you add more, these numbers are going to change. So if there are any of these link rows where these numbers are really high, delete those first and then add new ones. And so once you're done, I want you to take a screenshot showing all of your points in this table. So there will be 12 of them with this indicating that your root mean squared error is less than 15. So I can see all of that at once. And then once you're done, you will come here to georeferencing and click Update Georeferencing. And what it does is it saves that warp, that transformation that we were establishing with those control points, saves that as part of the image. So then next time, when you add in that image to anywhere, wherever you go to use it, it's already referenced, which I think is pretty freaking neat. All right, so now we are going to digitize some features to highlight the change between, so this is 1976, I think. Anyways, yeah, 1976 and 2004, which is the year of this image. All right, so you are going to want to also add in the study area and go ahead and make it hollow so that you can see underneath it. This study area is just a place that I found where there has been a lot of change between these 2 years, just to make it easier for you guys. So hollow, make this a little thicker, just so it's easier to see, and then maybe change the color so that it really pops. And then we can zoom to this so that we are in our study area. So you can see there's been quite a bit of change in between 1976 and 2004. So the first thing we're going to do is create some shapefiles where we will store the data that we are going to create. So you want to come into your art catalog, right-click on your Lab 4 folder, New, and Shapefile. All right, so first is going to be new homes. You want to make sure that you have this underscore in there because it doesn't like when you put spaces. This is going to be a point feature, so that's correct. Now we need to tell it what coordinate system we are going to be making these features in. So click Edit here, and then come to Projected Coordinate Systems, UTM, NAD83, NAD83 UTM zone 15N, which is where Lawrence is. We can add it to our favorites so we don't have to do that again. And just click OK. And so that takes us back here. This tells us what is the spatial reference for our new homes shapefile. And just say OK. And you can see it there. So right now it doesn't have any data in it. It's also been added to our map. So we're going to do that 2 more times. We're going to create a new streets line shapefile and new buildings polygon shapefile. And so the only difference there is that you need to make sure and change the feature type. So new streets is going to be polyline. Anyways, there we go. Same one. Okay. There's some way to just say I want it to be the same spatial reference as something that I already have in my map, but I don't remember how to do that right now. So we will just keep moving. So polygon, zone 15. All right, so we have all of our layers there, so now we need to add data to them. So let's go ahead and turn this off. We are going to create points for some of these homes here that are new. They're not in this 1976 image, but they are in the 2004. So let's add another toolbar. We can get rid of that one now too, the georeferencing, because we don't need that anymore. We do need the editor toolbar. So editor, there we go. All right, so come in here. You can see that all of these are grayed out. That means we're not in an edit session. So editor, start editing. All right, and so we want to edit new buildings. Okay. And so actually, because they're all in the same folder, they're all going to show up here as editable features. There we go. All right, so this is the Create Features window. You can see there are not any construction tools down here, and that's because we don't have what we need here. So you want to highlight this new homes. Now you can see it's been populated. So we have the construction tool of points. So make sure this is selected. And so now you can see that the cursor is dragging around a point. Make this a little smaller. And so you want to zoom in here. So all of these are homes, right? These are the driveways, this is the street. These are all suburban homes. So you don't need to digitize all of them, but I want you to do enough that you can be able to make a map at the end. And so you see all I'm doing is clicking. It's very easy. You can navigate around. And then anytime you need to get this cursor back to add more points, you just click there. Let's add some more. Zoom out. Like I said, you don't have to do all of them by any means, but do a good amount. All right, and if you make a mistake, you can just click this tool, highlight one of your points, and then right-click, delete. There we go. And so once you're done with all your buildings, you want to come up here and save edits. It leaves us in an edit session, but it saves all of those points that we created. And I cannot encourage you guys enough to frequently save your edits and frequently save your maps. ArcMap crashes. Doesn't happen all the time, but it definitely happens sometimes for various reasons. And I cannot tell you how frustrating it is to spend a bunch of time, say you had digitized points for every single one of these houses, you hadn't saved your edits, ArcMap crashes, all of that work is gone. You cannot recover it. So save frequently, please. All right, so now we are going to digitize some streets. So let's zoom out a bit, come to our study area. So you can see these streets in here didn't exist in 1975. So let's zoom in on that area. All right, and so we want to create some new streets. So here, highlight new streets, come in here to editor, come to snapping, and then snapping toolbar. So you want to make sure that all of these are highlighted. And what they do is it makes it so you can see how this automatically snaps to this line. That's so that you can maintain connectivity. So especially with your streets, you're going to have street intersections, and you want to make sure that those lines actually connect to each other. It can be very important when you're doing something like a network analysis, seeing how long it would take you to go from point A to point B using a roads network. You cannot do that if those streets don't cross, if they don't touch each other. So let's digitize this street right here. So you just click, 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 and then to end it, you double click. And there you go, you have a street. So now let's do this one. This will be a new street. You definitely want to make sure that each street is a different line. You don't want to just click, 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 and make all of this one line, because then when you go to name your streets and add information, all you have is one feature, one line feature, when really you need many line features. And so you can see this is snapping, so that means it's going to be connected. When there's a curve in the road like this, you probably need more vertices than you would need otherwise. There we go. Let's do one more. Double click. So there we have 3 streets. All right, so let's clear that selection. Looking pretty good. And so now we're going to digitize some more streets, some more line features, but using a different method. That was called point mode, because we were creating points as we went, and that's what created our line. So in this stream mode, all you're going to need to do is kind of trace your mouse cursor over the line, and it will create those, ArcMap will create those vertices for you. And so it's fast, but it can potentially be not as accurate because you have a bit less control. All right, so let's see. In editor, come in here to options. And so in this stream mode, we want to change the stream tolerance to 0.1. And that is the distance in between vertices. So this is 0.1 map units, which here is meters. And then we will group 10 together. I'm not completely sure what that means, but we'll go with it. So, okay. And so then what you're going to do, make sure you have this highlighted again. And then right-click in the map, and then select streaming. And so now you click to start. And so I'm just tracing my mouse along this road. So you can see it can be hard to keep it steady, especially depending on what your workspace is like. And then you just double click when you're done. So you want to do a couple like that. Just to show you a different way to do it. So now we are going to edit the attributes of these streets that we created. So let's save edits and then stop editing, because it's unintuitive, but you can't add a new column to an attribute table when you're in an edit session. You have to be outside of an edit session to do that. So let's open the attribute table. And so you can just see it's automatically been created with a shape and an ID. So come in here to table options, and we want to add field. If you were still in an edit session, this would be grayed out. All right, and so we want this to be called name for street name, and then change this to text. So this length is the number of characters that you can have. Let's change that to 25 because the street names aren't quite that long. And so you can see it's created that column here. So let's also create a field called suffix. So that's going to be, you'll have like Grand Street or Grand Boulevard or Grand Route. That route or boulevard or street is your suffix. So this will be text also. We can just change this to 10 and click OK. And so now we want to populate these fields for the streets that we created. So we do need, let's see, let's close the attribute table, right-click on your streets, come to selection, and make this the only selectable layer. So that way we don't accidentally select and edit something else. So then you want to start another edit session. Say OK. And then you will use this Select Features tool to select your street. You could have left this open, I guess. Open your attribute table again, and you can see that that row is highlighted. So I linked to a interactive digital map of Lawrence in the lab document. And so what you're going to want to do is find that same street in this map. So let's see. You can change the layers. So maybe some of you are more familiar with Lawrence than I am. Okay, so this is the bridge. So we're going to be somewhere up in here. Okay, so it looks like right in here. There we go. So this guy that we have highlighted is Carrington Lane. So then you can just click in this cell and type. So Carrington and then Lane. And just hit enter. And you will do that for all of your streets. And then, as always, save your edits. So do that for all of the streets that you created. And so now we are going to label those streets so that you'll be able to see the name actually on your map. By default, only one field displays at a time, but we want both of those fields, so I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, so here in your table of contents, just double click your streets layer. Come to labels. We want to label the features, and then we want to make an expression. So instead of just having one field shown as a label, we'll tell it how we want several. So go ahead and delete that ID. We don't want that. What we do want is name. So double click. And then this ampersand character. So and. And then if you open quote, space, close quote, what that's going to do is put a space in between, and then and, double click suffix. And so you can always verify here, saying the expression is valid, because sometimes you don't construct it right, but we want name and space and quotes and suffix. Okay. And then you may want to change something here. You can change the font, you can change the color, the size. And there, you can see Carrington Lane. So probably we'd want that quite a bit bigger. Maybe white. Let's see how that looks. There we go. So you're going to want to, mess with that so that you have something, that's not what we want, that'll be visible when you go to make your map. All right, so now we are going to create some polygon features. So I bet that you can guess what this is going to look like. So again, you want some things that aren't in this old Lawrence photo that are in the new. So like this parking lot right here. And so, the homes that we digitized at a certain scale would be considered polygons also. But at the scale of the map that we're making, I think that they're better represented at points. But clearly something like this parking lot is better represented as a polygon. So new buildings. And then you can just click at where you want there to be vertices. You can see that it's a little bit see-through so that you can see what is underneath, and then you just double click to finish. Obviously, buildings is a loose term. In this context, it can be buildings, but it can also be things like parking lots or fields, things of that nature. And so now you have your polygon here. And so same as we did with the streets, you're going to create some new fields. So save and then stop editing. Right click, open attribute table. You want to add field. We're going to call this type. So what type of polygon is it? Text. Length 50 is good. Say OK. And so now you would start your edit session again. You can make this the only selectable layer because this is what we're using now. Highlight, and then for the type, say parking lot. And so you are going to want to create polygons, several of them, maybe 5, something like that. And it would be nice to make sure you have 2 of at least one thing and name them consistently. Because then what you're going to do, let me do one more so that I can show you. So that's highlighted. You can see it here. We will just call this building because I'm not quite sure what it is. All right. Save edits. So now what you can do is double click into new buildings, come to symbology, and instead of single symbol here where they're all going to be symbolized the same way, you can come to categories, unique values, and then change the value field to type, and then add all values. And so you can see it's added all of the unique values. If there were multiple polygons that all had building as type, it would still look exactly like this. Because what it does is it shows them and creates them in the legend as categorical data types. So hopefully that's pretty clear. There are a bit more steps to it than that, but I think that that is most of the information that you need. After that's done, you're going to make a map of the study area. So you're going to use the 1976 map with the features that you digitized to show the change between 1976 and 2004. So these being features that exist in 2004 but didn't exist in 1976. You want to give your map a title that reflects that. So again, if somebody just found your map lying on the sidewalk, they would know what it was about. You want to add a legend. You want to make sure that your headings here look nice. So again, take out those underscores and make sure that you include your name as an author, a north arrow, a scale bar, and then when you're done, make sure that you're constantly saving your map too. I have not been a good example of that. Let's see. Where is... Oh, there we go, my OneDrive. Lab 4. So you will name this your last name, Lab 4. And then you will export map as a PNG after you've made it look nice and added all of the elements. I'm not going to do that because I didn't do those things. But please let me know if you have questions. There'll be office hours tomorrow. Also, I am available at many times if we need to schedule a Zoom meeting outside of that.